Jai Om Vishnu Paramahamsa Parivrajakacharya Srimad Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Granthrat Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bol. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. This morning we are reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 31, entitled Narada Instructs the Prachetas. Text 3. Is it 3? Tan Nivjita Prana Mana Vacha Drisha Jita Asam Shanta Samana Vigrahan Pare Ammale Brahmane Yojita Atmana Sura Asura Idyaha Dadrishe Sma Narada Tanirjita Pranamano Vachodrisho Jita Sanam Shantasamana Vigraha Jita Sanam Shantasamana Vigrahan Paremale Brahmani Yojitatmana Paremale Brahmani Yojitatmana Sura Suredyo Dadrishe Smanaradaha Sura Suredyo Dadrishe Smanaradaha Tanne Jita Pranamano Vachodrisho Jita Sanam Shantasamana Vigraham Paremale Brahmani Yojitatmana Sura Suredyo Dadrishe Smanaradaha Tanne Jita Pranamano Vachodrisho Jita Sanam Shantasamana Vigraham Paremale Brahmani Yojitatmana Sura Suredyo Dadrishe Smanarada Tanne Jita Pranomano Vachadrisho Jita Sanan Shantasamana Vigraham Paremale Brahmani Yojitatmana Sura Suredyo Dadrishe Smanaradaha brahmanyojitatmana surasurebhyo dadrishesmanarada Tanejita pranomano vachadrisho Jitasanan shantasamana vigrahan Paremale brahmanyojitatmana Surasurebhyo dadrishesmanaradaha Tanirchita pranamano vachaudrisho Chitasanam shantasamana vigraham Paremale brahmanyojitatmana Surasurebhyo dadrishesmanaradaha Mataji Tanejita pranamano vachodrisho Jitasanam chantasamana vigraham Paremale brahmanyojitatmana Surasurebhyo dadrishesmanarada Tanejita pranamano vachodrisho Jitasanam chantasamana vigraham Done all of them. Nirjita, completely controlled. Prana, the life air, by the pranayama process. Mana, mind. Vacha, words. Drisha, and vision. Jita asanan, who conquered by the yogic asana, or sitting posture. Shanta, pacified. Samana, straight. Vigrahan, whose bodies. Pare, transcendental. Amale, free from all material contamination. Brahmani, in the Supreme. Yojita, engaged. Atmanaha, whose minds. Sura Asura Idyaha, worshipped by the demons and by the demigods. Dadrishe, so. Sma, in the past. Narada, the great sage Narada. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. After practicing the yoga asana for mystic yoga, the prachetas managed to control their life air, mind, words, and external vision. Thus, by the pranayama process, they were completely relieved of material attachment. By remaining perpendicular, they could concentrate their minds on the uppermost Brahman while they were practicing this pranayama. The great sage Narada, who is worshipped both by demons and by demigods, came to see them. Purport. In this verse, the words Pare Amale are significant. The realization of Brahman is explained in Srimad Bhagavatam. The absolute truth is realized in three phases: impersonal effulgence, Brahman, localized Paramatma, and the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Bhagavan. In his prayers, Lord Shiva concentrated upon the personal feature of Parabrahman, described in the personal terms as Snigdha Pravrid Ghana Shyamam. Following the instructions of Lord Shiva, the Prachetas also concentrated their minds on the Shama Sundara form of the Supreme Brahman. Although impersonal Brahman, Paramatma Brahman and Brahman as the Supreme Person are all on the same transcendental platform, the personal feature of the Supreme Brahman is the ultimate goal and the last word in transcendence. The great sage Narada travels everywhere. He goes to demons and the demigods, and it's equally respected. He is consequently described herein as Sura Suredya, worshipped both by demons and by demigods. For Narada Muni, the door of every house is open. Although there is perpetual animosity between the demons and demigods, Narada Muni is welcomed everywhere. Narada is considered one of the demigods, of course, and the word Devarshi means the saintly person among the demigods. But not even the demons envy Narada Muni. Therefore, he is equally worshipped both by demons and by demigods. A perfect Vaishnava's position should be just like Narada's Muni, completely independent and unbiased. Tan nirjita pranamano vachodrisho jita sanam chantasamanavi grahan paremale brahmaniyo jitatmanam sura suredyo dadrishes manaradam. After practicing the yoga asana for mystic yoga, the Prachetas managed to control their life, air, mind, words, and external vision. Thus, by the pranayama process, they were completely relieved of the material attachment. By remaining perpendicular, they could concentrate their minds on the uppermost Brahman. While they were practicing this pranayama, the great sage Narada, who is worshipped both by demons and by demigods, came to see them. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Gyananjanachalakachakshurunmilitamena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Namo Vishnu Paraya Krishna Prashta Bhutta Vaishnava Bhaktivedanta Swami Nitinamya Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravana Pracharna Virvishesha Shunyavadi Paschati Vishtayana Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Shri Sari Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So it is very interesting in this narration that Narada Muni comes and visits Prachetas. Prachetas have been sometimes back instructed by Lord Shiva to achieve the Supreme Personality of Godhead. They were offering prayers to Lord Shiva, and then Lord Shiva instructed them how to attain the Supreme Absolute. But then in the course of time, as much as I can recollect, they have been entangled in the affairs of the household life. Let's see how this works here. But of course, they still didn't forget the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But in one verse, they express their kind of regret of being entangled as such, because it in a way diverted them from the ultimate goal of life. Of course, they used it as a service in a sense. We know in the beginning of the creation especially, there is a requirement which Lord Brahma would very often stress, and he would try to inspire all his sons, including Narada Muni, 4 Kumaras, who refused, but otherwise everybody else, to try to repopulate and the universe and render such kind of service in this way. So Prachetas have been engaged, but then Narada Muni comes and ultimately he, as always, tries to relieve everyone from this material existence. We know when the Haryashas have been meditating and other sons of Brahma, 2 times Narada Muni comes and he just points that you have already achieved perfection, you have become purified. What is the point of getting back entangled in this material world? You're already qualified. Now, why stepping down? Why stepping down? Of course, sometimes for the sake of service, it's kind of arguable, at which extent one can consider such kind of entanglement, and to which extent one is really qualified to assume certain type of position in such kind of household affairs. We know that Maharaj Priyavrata, he had been asked, and there was a kind of a discussion going on between, again, Narada Muni and Lord Brahma, then whom to follow, which advice to accept. And ultimately, even Krishna had to interfere, and then somehow it was settled that Maharaj Priyavrata assumes this position, but simultaneously, because he was so pure and wouldn't have been affected by any kind of what ordinarily is considered adverse position, he assumed that position, but he was fully Krishna conscious. Now yes, when one becomes fully Krishna conscious, then for him it just doesn't matter. It's just like Lord Shiva says to Parvati, in regards to Chitraketu Maharaj when he was cursed by her. He said, hell or heaven or whatever circumstance, it just doesn't matter for a devotee. Yes, but of course we know there are different levels of the devotees. So now which level one is on. And one has to be very clear and very honest about his position. And therefore Krishna gave us Chaturvanya Maya Srishtam Guna Karma Vibhagashaha. That there are 4 varnas, there are 4 ashramas, and then according to one conditional position, that means psychophysical nature, then one just engages whatever propensity he has acquired by his karma and guna in Krishna's service, and then gradually advances in the spiritual life. Now anything artificial definitely doesn't yield to any kind of success, doesn't yield to any progress, because ultimately one then, the danger is, may fall even from the spiritual practice altogether. So then one just has to see what is my inclination, where is my conditioning, and how can I engage this in Krishna's service. And we have been very mercifully presented this particular process also given by Srila Prabhupada, that we can engage all our propensity in Krishna's service. And this is why Srila Prabhupada pretty much emphasized the establishment of the Varnashram Dharma system. Practically he gave already everything. He created Brahmanas, he established the whole system, but of course only mostly we can say Kshatriya, Vaishya, and kind of clarity on the Shudra position, that still it's somewhat to be more developed. Of course that's a big subject in ISKCON. Varnashram Dharma should be in some ways how to do it, whether to do it or not. Anyway, there are so many discussions going on the subject. But the idea is that Srila Prabhupada, he gave the pure devotional service in the beginning. First few years he just told devotees just chant, practice the process of devotional service. But then he noticed that devotees were struggling, they were not able to maintain that kind of pure devotional service, that kind of position. It's like very few were like Jayananda, when there is Ratha Yatra, Jayananda Prabhu. So he was just doing everything. He was engaged, he would repair things, he would build things. It's kind of like activities, which somebody may classify as a Shudra activity. Of course, he was Vaishnava, as a devotee, he was just engaged in everything. But he had taste for everything, that's the whole point. Then he would collect, Lakshmi for the festivals and this and that. Then sometimes if necessary, he would again organize, manage, like a Kshatriya or he would give a class, or he would just inspire devotees, care, and so many things. So he just, for him, there was not any kind of difference in devotional service, what to do, or whether this is my nature or not my nature. He was just very comfortable and just very excited about any kind of devotional service. But Srila Prabhupada noticed not so many devotees were on that kind of level. And not so many devotees were able to sustain certain, or being engaged in so many kinds of various aspects of the devotional service. And that's why he was more and more, we see the last years, more and more he was emphasizing of that establishment of the Varnashram Dharma system, where one can really find himself in a certain type of environment, a certain kind of activities, and see how that can be connected to Krishna, dedicate his everything practically to Krishna. Like here it said manodiya vacha, but it's like kind of like man means mind, vacha words, disha and vision, of course. It's kind of so it's also in a similar way, just dedicate everything to Krishna, to practice of Krishna consciousness. So that then one becomes very stable and one becomes very solid in his devotional practice. We know the story of Gajendra. When Gajendra was not situated properly, it said, then this is when he was losing his fight with the crocodile. So the explanation is that one really has to be situated so that he becomes strong. And then he can practice undisturbedly, in an undisturbed way, devotional service. Then he becomes steady, can advance. Otherwise, if that is not the case, then one cannot progress in the spiritual life. One is always disturbed by certain type of desire, certain type of need, certain type of course, conditional, but still, we very much identify still with this body, and that's why we have to engage this body on a certain platform. So Narada Muni tries to encourage everyone to come to the absolute platform, but he, of course, seeing that somebody is qualified and somebody unnecessarily shouldn't become entangled in the affairs of material life, then he tries to give a good advice and guide and give those kind of instructions when one can become immediately practically liberated. And this is something that people don't very often appreciate in this world. We see how everybody is pretty much focused on some kind of definitely far lower level of so-called religiosity. And as Srimad Bhagavatam would point out, it's all practically Kaitava Dharma, different mixtures of jnana and karma consideration, or even worse, karma kanda. So we know also, like in the Narada Muni's case, when he preached to the sons of Daksha, Daksha completely misunderstood. You see that he completely misunderstood what is the goal of spiritual practice. Even to the extent that he offended Lord Shiva. So he cursed Narada Muni for presenting this highest, topmost level of pure devotional service, considering that actually practicing the karma kanda portion of the Vedas, and of course doing big yagya and everything for the sake of Vishnu, but he didn't know what the purpose, ultimate goal of service to Vishnu was. And this is why he completely misunderstood, and we see that he's just criticizing Narada Muni, and he's just saying that how could you do it, I have particular service to perform, there's so many duties that has to be done, and then you're just creating an obstacle towards that. So he just completely misunderstood. He just didn't have that proper knowledge, neither realization about what the ultimate devotional service and pleasure for Vishnu was. So we see this mostly nowadays. People just understand. Like just recently I was, just now in Vijayawada some days back, we met one teacher of one school, and he was kind of favorable, trying to get some books across. And his conception that brahmacharya or sannyas life was just for Shankaracharya and nobody else. That everybody has to go through all the other stages. And he was like very, very convinced about it. So I gave him some few different, we had some little discussion, I discussed a few little points. But this is mostly what people consider, that everybody has to go through different stages of life. Everybody has to kind of, go. But it's not necessary, it just depends. Again, if one has certain type of psychophysical nature, it's not necessary. So also like this, like any part of it, either varna or ashram, one just has to be, and hopefully as clear about his position so that he can engage that position in the spiritual practice. because nowadays it's like all mixed of mix of mix of mix of mix, and the times just like also some days back somebody approached me and also asked me, some students, that how do we know how to go further, we are studying so many things, we have so many subjects, there are so many things, so then what should we do in life? It's just not easy to decide. It's just so difficult, to understand what is one's position and how to engage oneself and how to maintain oneself in life, ultimately by maintenance, by work, by earning. That is the varna. So what does that point? It points that in this age we are all practically, in one sense, also more than the other. It's like kind of varna shankara. That means mixed, unclear about what are we supposed to do in life, and then even later on, how do we engage that in life? We have all kinds of qualities to some extent. It's not like before. Tradition was, if you read Lamrit Srila Prabhupada, when he was a small child, they would just put Bhagavatam, they would put some weapon or something, this and that, or grains or money or something. It's like, and then you just let the child go, and then automatically there's going to be attraction towards something, and you see the nature. It's kind of very interesting custom. You see the nature, but nowadays it's like it's so difficult. It's like it's so difficult to decide which direction to take, where to go, how to, and then how to engage this in Krishna service. And that's why we have difficulties figuring out what is Varnashram system. Where do we fit? And it's more even difficult to become honest about one's position, which is more predominant than the other. We just look what are the benefits of this position or that position. Maybe I should act like this, and this is why we feel, therefore, great obstacle even then to advance in the spiritual life, in Krishna consciousness, because there's so many diversions, and we are not really honestly engaging our propensity in Krishna service, which would then be, like very much enhanced by natural, just being in the natural position, which will be very inspiring, which would be like very creative. We could be doing so much more for Krishna, but rather we struggle for something that we consider is important, but actually has nothing to do with our nature. So then that becomes very difficult. So this is why, as much as possible, at least if we become clear, we go through those kind of, sometimes in the West they call them identity crisis. They're like 3 major identity crises, like they say run around 10 years or so, and then one around 18, 19, trying to figure out direction in life, where to go, what to do, what to, what to study, what kind of work to do, where, how to situate oneself. It's just there's so many, it's like it becomes a crisis. Of course, that was not there in the Vedic times. It was very clear. Somebody's born in a particular family or immediately has inclination towards that kind of, lifestyle, better to say, It's like, so, but nowadays it's just so many crises, what to do, which direction to take, like, and whomever mostly I discuss, it's pretty much unclear. Only when is it really clear, it's kind of, where is money, where is more, what is better position. It's just money. It's just a single thing, What is it that motivates people the most? What is the most important thing in life? So they did surveys in the companies, and then they asked people, what is it that makes you motivated to work, to be effective? So in the West they had different conception. Here in India, whenever I kind of inquire, it's just money. Money is priority, nothing else. But somehow or other in the West that survey was performed, and people didn't say money. They said, first of all, that I feel kind of being able to contribute. That means that I can contribute, that it makes me creative, that I have, scope for being, like, to exploring, and then just to being able to benefit someone. So that's one of the things then, that I know whatever I'm doing is going to be useful and beneficial for someone else. That's a pretty also interesting consideration. And then of course you have environment, people, this and that, so many, but money wasn't on the top anywhere. It was much lower. Whereas here in India it's like kind of mostly, I mean, it's everywhere, but the more emphasis is just money. Money is everything. Bigger salary, bigger this and that. We have one devotee now in Mumbai, and he's coming to Chennai. He's going to come next month, settle somewhere. He got a better job here, better salary. But I said, what about, did you ask, where you're going to stay, devotees around? Of course, here in Chennai, there are so many devotees, must be. He'll figure out. I'm not sure what is the situation, really. But anyway, he didn't ask that. It was just, okay, better salary, better, But then I say, how are you going to organize your spirit? He's initiated. How, you didn't ask those things first, It's just, okay, better money. But then, But then he said it's like clear. Better money means you'll have to work more. They just gonna demand more from you. You'll have less time also. He said yes. I said great, But then there is your spiritual life. There is your spiritual life. So it's like this. So we are not properly situated. So when we come across this kind of pure instructions, like Narada Muni, he comes and he just says, it's just better, just surrender, give up. So for us, it's not easy because we are not yet that pure. We're not that pure, and that's why we're not meeting Narada Muni or somebody of that caliber of devotional service. Then we're just dealing, of course we have Srila Prabhupada, that is there, but mostly we are just on such a level that we can't even figure out where to situate ourselves and how to situate ourselves. What to speak of some kind of just pure devotional practice, just being fully engaged in constitutional engagements like deity worship, like chanting, like even book distribution marathon is going on, but just pure devotional service, studying Bhagavatam, teaching Bhagavatam, so it's not so easy for us. But by the mercy of Krishna, still we at least know the standards. Srila Prabhupada so kindly presented to us, what is the highest devotional standard, and now we see how do we fit, how can we come to that level that we are as much as possible throughout the day engaged in some kind of devotional activity, pure devotional activity. And then if that's not there, like Krishna is saying in the 12th chapter to Arjuna, the best thing is you fully dedicate your mind and intelligence. Okay, you can't do that. Okay, then work for me. Okay, you can't do that. Okay, fine. Then give some result. You can't do that. Then some social thing, something. And so giving different options. That is there. But of course, if we have opportunity, if we can do something the best, then that would be the best. That's the best. But somehow we have to get some taste for devotional service, because this is something that propels us in our spiritual practice. It's not just, of course, nowadays even people, it's like sometimes even devotees, it's just such a lack of realization how horrible this material world is. Horrible material world is. And even that kind of realization, it's not so prominent. It's like there's always some kind of thought or hope, we can make things better, and in the future we'll work things out and everything. But no, it's getting worse and worse and worse. Even that understanding is not there. It's not getting better, it's just getting worse. Now, Bhakti, is today Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Maharaj, is today appearance day? This appearance day, okay, appearance day. Okay. Oh, okay. Cool. Right. Okay. So just like he said to Srila Prabhupada, when Srila Prabhupada was a member of Gandhi's movement, and he thought, who's going to preach, who's going to go around and propagate Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, when we are a dependent nation, who is going to listen to us? Because Bhaktisiddhanta immediately, was emphasizing you have to go out and, throughout the world, present this message and preach. Prabhupada said, who's going to listen? We're a dependent nature. And Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Maharaj replied, who cares who is the manager of the latrine? WC. Latrine, WC. Compare the world to that. He said, who cares? We're not concerned with that. And Prabhupada was defeated. He accepted. That's not the priority. So this world is like this. That's why you can't make it a nice place. It's always be a bad place, what everyone tries to do. It's just not meant for a gentleman. So we do our duty, whatever it has to be done, that, and just get out as soon as possible. So even that consideration, that this place is, as Krishna is saying in Srimad Bhagavad Gita, Dukhalayama Shashvata. It's temporary, full of miseries. And Abrahma Bhuna Loka Punarvartinarjuna Mamupetete Konte Punarjanmana Vidyate, whatever it might be, from topmost, lowest planet, still it's going to be birth and death. Even that consideration is not there. But at least if we have, as a devotees, we do and might have some kind of realization of sufferings of this material existence, but then that's not sufficient again to sustain us in the devotional practice. What will sustain us in the devotional practice? It's the taste. Rasovacham rasopyasya param drishtva nivartate. So we have to gain more and more taste for the devotional practice. But for that we have to engage in devotional practice and we have to follow. The Prabhupada gave us the perfect system. The whole Pancharatric system, everything Prabhupada summarized in the morning and evening program. Everything. Sandwich program, as it was said, and between service, so much service. So we are gaining this. Prabhupada is giving us so mercifully, so that we come to that platform of pure devotional service which Narada Muni is presenting here to everybody. That's it. And that's what Srila Prabhupada said, that specifically, even more so, this mission of Sankirtan Yagya, given by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So there is no other process. There is no any other process in this, given in this universe, or any age, yoga, worship, yoga, yagya, worship, whatever it might be. But this Sankirtan Yagya, that within one lifetime, one can qualify and go back home, back to God. It's such a yagya, just to go out and ask people, please take Bhagavad Gita. It's such a yagya, it's such a sacrifice actually. There's no sacrifice greater than this kind of sacrifice, to go out and distribute books. To go out and ask people, like Prabodhananda Saraswati would say, Prabhupada would quote, he said, just quoting them, you're so great, you're flattering, you're so wonderful, you're so successful, you're so this, but please, forget all of that, just start chanting Hare Krishna Mahamantra. So you have to go around and just approach people who are just absolutely disinterested in spiritual life. How many, hardly anyone really being seriously interested in but spiritual life. Everybody is so engrossed, having so many hopes about, better material existence. It's just such an illusion. It's just incredible illusion. So that's why, whatever means, just to go out and trying to somehow give out the books. Like Srila Prabhupada said, they're like our bombs, which we drop, and then at some point they're gonna explode. They're gonna, and get in touch with someone, enter someone's heart, change someone's heart, twist it completely, but become devotees. It will have an effect. Maybe we don't see it immediately, but it definitely, in the course of time, it has an effect. And anyone who just even touches or reads anything, whatever, the seed has been sown. At some point, it's going to sprout up. So this yagya, Sankirtan yagya, there's nothing so powerful. None of this, like, of course, not for us. Like here it said, prachetas, they will perform. Because we are forced, practically we are forced to take shelter of Krishna. We are forced. We go out, we understand, I'm not a doer. Maybe I have certain quota, I have to do something, I want to do, but we're not a doer. We have to surrender. We are forced to seek that shelter. That brings us to completely absolute level of spiritual practice. Being forced to surrender, and we have to surrender. And then we are praying to Krishna, being conscious of Krishna. There's no process that makes one coming to that highest level, so fast and so efficient like this Sankirtan Yagya. There's just nothing like that. And also that famous inquiry that one secretary of Rameshwar Prabhu that time, he was giving the class and he compared, he said that this Sankirtan Yagya is just like gopis serving Krishna. And then Mataji inquired that, Nandulal, I think was her name, she wrote to Prabhupada, he said that, so is that correct? How to understand this? And Srila Prabhupada replied, yes, it's correct. Why? Because we are asking other people, we are bringing them to Krishna. This is what gopis and manjaris, they do. What they're doing, they're bringing everybody to Krishna. They don't care about their own themselves. They're not trying to push themselves in front of Krishna. No, they're pushing others. And this is what Sankirtan Yagya is. And this is what is so dear to Krishna. Like he's saying in Bhagavad Gita, anyone talking to devotees, but even not to devotees, like also here at the end of purport, Narad Muni, dear to all demons and demigods, there are ways how to present it. But Krishna said, giving this knowledge, it's so dear to me, so dear to me. One who reads this Bhagavad Gita, specifically, of course, what to speak of Srimad Bhagavatam, worships me with his intelligence. So it's a process, it's such a purifying process that, as I said, no other process can compare to it. And like here, yes, okay, prachetas lived at some other time, but this process is not for us. but we get the same effect. And pretty much our sadhana, it's almost similar to all. We also have yam, niyam, everything pretty much the same. When we reach ultimate samadhi, what's ultimate samadhi? Just dancing in the kirtan. Ultimate samadhi, absorption in the holy name. Everything is pretty much the same, but it's so much more efficient, and we don't need any pre-qualification for it. So this is the most wonderful mercy, of course, also of the Narad Muni. He's in our Guru Parampara, and all the devotees, acharyas down the line, we're all following, again, still Narada Muni, but it's just a matter of the time and circumstance where certain process is presented. So like this, Pracheta their life. And then by the mercy of Narada Muni, they assume process again. So it's not just sufficient. They knew about Krishna, they knew about Vishnu, worship, everything. They knew. Lord Shiva taught them. Just imagine, you have such a amazing spiritual master. Lord Shiva himself, of course, he is the Vaishnavana Metta Shambhu. And Rudra Sampradaya. I was just recently reading Padma Purana, when Lord Shiva glorifies, he gives Gita Mahatmya, he glorifies Bhagavatam. That story of Bhakti and her two sons, which became old and just completely emancipated, like really, and they even came to Vrindavan, and all the Vedas have been recited to them. Even Bhagavad Gita was recited to them, but there was just no signs of life practically from them. And then 4 Kumaras, they were reciting Bhagavatam, and they suggested, okay, why not reciting Bhagavatam? And then when the Srimad Bhagavatam was recited, then they were rejuvenated. They were this is the glory of Srimad Bhagavatam, that no other scripture, no other process can revive practically one to its original nature. Yeah. So what an incredible process we have been given. So if we just persist, in spite of all our conditionings that we have, and see again, like, how do we engage this in Krishna's service, and take a good guidance, and which we do have here in International Society for Krishna Consciousness, and just follow in the footsteps of Srila Prabhupada and all the acharyas, then we won't have to divert any time and energy for any kind of illusory temptation that might be there in this material existence. We will just remain fixed and steady, and as Prabhupada said, within this lifetime, one can go back home, back to Godhead, and specifically, as I said, practicing this Sankirtan Yagya. There's no other Yagya greater than this. And Srila Prabhupada said, there is that one wonderful purport in 10th canto, pointed out that if one just, he gives an analogy, if the son remains faithful to the father, it naturally inherits all the properties of the father. So in a similar way, one just remaining in ISKCON, just remaining. Actually, sometimes I'm also sometimes it's kind of a struggle just to remain, just to be steady, but just that, this is our success. This is our success. If we just remain steady and faithful to Srila Prabhupada, automatically we will inherit, Golok Vrindavan. Just that. So this is Prabhupada's promise. And of course, Krishna never, he said, whatever my devotee promising, that he upholds. We know, Lord Brahma, he gave the boon to Hiranyakashipu. He upholds that. Of course, any other thing that has to be worked out, that Krishna will take care of. Yeah, but anything devotee promises, and Srila Prabhupada promises, within this lifetime, we just have to remain fixed and steady and engaged. But we have to be engaged. We have to be engaged in this Sankirtan Yaga, in this mission that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has given to us. And then we will be also effective like this, as the Prachetas have been effective, achieving, the goal of life. Here there is a discussion, but Vedanti tat tattva vidas tattvam yajnana madmayam brahmeti paramatmeti bhagavaniti shabdyate. 3 different features of the Absolute. So whichever feature, of course, the ultimate is the Bhagavan feature, because it includes all Sachit and Dhananda aspects, is the ultimate. But anyway. And then here, very interestingly, at the end of the purport, Srila Prabhupada talks about Narad Muni being dear to demons and demigods. Yeah, both. It's just like 6 Goswamis, what is that? Shat Goswami Ashtaka, dear to ruffians and to gentle, they were, they were just, they, this is the nature of a devotee. He just sees the conditioned soul. And tries to deliver the conditioned soul. It doesn't see the external, again, I mean, the external position of some conditioned soul or so. He just sees that everyone can be recipient of a mercy. Everyone can be recipient of Krishna's mercy. It doesn't distinguish. It's like, it's an Uttama platform. It's Uttama platform. But of course, to give that mercy, like, Srila Prabhupada also, one comes to the Madhyam platform. But it doesn't discriminate, whether this one's or that one. Of course, in Madhyam platform, one does discriminate. Friends, enemies, devotees, non-devotees, this, that. But ultimately, mercy is given. Like when we go out on Harinam or something, there's so many demons hearing Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, but they also benefit. They also get purified. Like I remember, there was Vijay Prabhu, who is, I think, minister for Sankirtan. I think it's still. Yeah, so he was in Mumbai once. He was giving, I think last year or last to last, whatever. Anyway, he was sharing some realizations and stories. So he said in Australia, I think, he came across one man who was a Satanist. It means like worshipping a devil, Satan, like kind of. So, and then he presented Bhagavad Gita and this person said, I'm not interested in this, I'm not a religious person. And like even more heavy kind of explained. And then he was very witty, like very, very sharp, like fast and sharp. He said, okay, you don't like God and, you consider God to be your enemy. And the man said, yes. So, but then if you want to fight your enemy, you should better know your enemy. So you better take Bhagavad Gita. And the man was convinced, wow, you got me now. And he took it. So he took the Gita. He took the book. So that's nice. So like this, devotees are always considered, and specifically Narada Muni, what he has, demons, demigods, whatever, it's everybody, like, what does it matter? Nature or the position or background? What does it mean? Of course, it's the nature, it's demoniac nature, not, like even somebody in the, like within the demigod kind of category can act like a demon, and somebody in the demoniac kind of category can act like a devotee, like Prahlad Maharaj or whatever. Or once even, like when, anyway, Soma acted, he sided with the demons, when he took the wife of Brihaspati and so it's whatever, there can be any kind of contamination. But even any kind of mentality, the devotee will come and he'll just present the absolute truth for the benefit of any, so kind of any kind of like temporary or little on a deeper scale, or kind of somebody who is in a conditioned level, in a conditioned position, whatever it might be. Devotee just doesn't discriminate. Actually, devotee tries to benefit everybody. So this is the position in which we again follow here in the footsteps of Narada Muni. We try to present and give knowledge to everyone. Even they might be demoniac. Of course, sometimes we do have to be careful, because then it would be like, feeding snake with the milk. So, but at least indirectly, if nothing else, then, as I said, in Harinam or whatever, they also get purified. They benefit. Or somehow, if they get prasadam, but they don't know it's a prasadam, again, they'll benefit. Devotees don't discriminate, they'll give. So that's why in that sense also Srila Prabhupada gave us this mission, which is, again, we see following in the same line, like in the way that Narada Muni acts. That means he's very compassionate towards everyone, just instructing everyone how to ultimately, come to its original constitutional position. So since today it's disappearance day of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Maharaj, so we'll just say a few words about him, just whatever little we can recollect. When he appeared, one interesting thing was that the umbilical cord was wrapped around his shoulder like this, like a Brahmin thread. So that was a great sign of a great personality. So that was immediately, of course, he appeared in the holy Dham of Jagannath Puri. And today there is a Chaitanya Mat, Gaudiya Chaitanya Mat there, Bhaktivinoda Thakur's house. And they say also when the Ratha Yatra once was passing by, then it didn't want to pass. It kind of stopped. Sometimes it does happen. And nobody couldn't move it. And then Bhaktivinoda Thakur came, and then with small Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, Bimala Prasad at that time. And the garland fell around his head. And then only the chariot moved. And that was also considered one of the most amazing things. And he was just, very early he memorized the whole Bhagavad Gita. He was just known as the walking encyclopedia. He was editing works of Bhaktivinoda Thakur, so many books, and he was writing so many. He was given honorary degree because he was so brilliant in astronomy, Siddhanta, by the Tripura Maharaj. And of course, the main mission, main purpose of his preaching was to just practically purify the whole planet of the Mayavadis and Apasampradayas. And that was such a great task that even, once one police commissioner revealed to him that actually somebody even wanted to assassinate him. Even to that point, but he was absolutely uncompromised, absolutely, very, very. Bhaktivinoda Thakur created the grounds. He revived practically the whole sampradaya, which has been completely contaminated by so many misconceptions and sinful activities and offenses. But then, he didn't go further, but he left, that kind of task to Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Maharaj. That's why he was known as a lion guru. Absolutely uncompromised. He said whenever Mayavadi would see him walking on the street, he wouldn't pass by. He would just cross to another. They wouldn't meet him. He was so powerful. They feared him so much. They feared him so much. Even in sometimes in Radhakund, he would say, "This is not Radhakund. This is Narakund." Whenever he would detect any kind of inappropriate activities or so-called spiritual practice, he would just immediately point it out to it. Once somebody criticized him, that was very interesting in Vrindavan, somebody criticized him for something that actually had nothing to do with. And then he just went on a fast for 3 days. And the devotees said, this person, local person, whoever was, why you are, Maharaj, why you're fasting, why you're taking, why? Because, ultimately has nothing to do with you. But he said a very interesting thing. He said that, I'm taking all the benefits of being an acharya, being worshipped and everything. So then I should also set the proper example. That means whenever there is some kind of even criticism which is not justified, then he just fasted. He performs austerity. Yeah. So that was a very interesting thing. He would just take, he would just take responsibility on himself. Any kind of responsibility, even if it wasn't, there was no any fault, but somebody considered it to be a fault. Still, he would just, perform the duty as what he would consider as an acharya. He said, if I'm getting benefit, then also I'll perform. I can also renounce. I can perform austerities like this. So that was just incredible display of such a pure character and position of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Maharaj. And of course, we know that he, following and in the desire of Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he would encourage devotees to go and preach to the West. He was utilizing everything in the process of Yukta Vairagya, cars, even shoes, even, the suits, just to try to get, across. And he would arrange whatever, even for British, some kind of meals and this and that, whatever, anything, just to present this message, to be able to present this message of preaching. Anyway, many pastimes, and he would care for devotees. He was very very considerate like this. And one very interesting pastime was when he traveled in the train, and then there was some Mayavadi. He met some Mayavadi, and then they had some mangoes. And devotees, there were actually two instances. One is, one Mayavadi was telling everything is same, everything is one. So Bhaktisiddhanta forced him to eat rotten mangoes. He said, if everything is same, then you should demonstrate your own philosophy. And then this Mayavadi was eating rotten mangoes. It's like that was there. But But once he was so small, and then he ate some mangoes, and then Bhaktivinoda Thakur asked him, did you offer those mangoes? And he didn't know. He just, the mangoes were not offered. And then he gave a vow that I'm the offender. When he was offered mangoes by his disciple, he said, I cannot take it, I'm the offender. So since childhood, practically, he never ate mangoes. He's just so strict, so determined, so focused. He said, I'm the offender. He just remembered that as a child, he just committed such an insignificant, practically, offense. It's like, but he was so strict. So that's why he was just uncompromised, very, very strict, and absolutely brilliant in terms of, publishing and inspiring devotees and preaching and offering how many? 64 Gaudiya Mats, different. So on this day we can pray also to his mercy. And as it is said, even Srila Prabhupada would say this, that, well, yeah, that was, yeah, for us, his grandfather. Srila Prabhupada disciple would say that sometimes grandfather is more merciful than the father, but then maybe grandfather is more merciful also. So let us pray to him on this day that he blesses us with his mercy so we can advance in our spiritual life. Hare Krishna. Maybe any questions or comments? Okay. Then we'll stop here. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai.